Take a look at some of the big economic stories making headlines. Wendy's says it plans to close several hundred U.S. restaurants this year. That's between 5 and 6% of its total locations. This after the company reported same-store sales fell by 10% in the last 3 months of 2025. Wendy's is now looking to win back customers by offering new value meals. Turning now to inflation, cooling down more than expected in January. The Consumer Price Index shows inflation increased just 0.2% month over month and 2.4% year over year, hitting its lowest level in 9 months. And sticker shock on this Valentine's Day? New data out from Data Assembly showing consumer prices for chocolate spiked 14% since last year. Analysts telling ABC News the sharp rise in chocolate prices is due to a cocoa shortage in West Africa, which they say accounts for about 70% of the world's cocoa supply. Bittersweet news indeed, as tax season is upon us, which brings us to a segment we call In This Economy. So new legislation could make filing your taxes a bit more complicated this year, but here to help you thrive this tax season is Brinn Siegel. She's the former Deputy Chief of Staff at the Treasury Department under Joe Biden. Julie, you say filing season is shaping up to be a customer service catastrophe for taxpayers. Break that down for us.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really tough filing season for taxpayers for a couple of reasons, most of which are due to some deliberate bad choices by the IRS. So every year, the IRS hires thousands of customer service representatives to pick up the phone, open mail, answer questions from taxpayers. This tax season, they hired 50. They missed their hiring goals by 98%. And what does that mean for taxpayers? That means that if you have to call the IRS because you have a question, you're likely going to be on hold for hours, maybe longer. That means that if you make a mistake on your tax return or you get into a dispute with the IRS, you're probably going to be waiting for weeks or months or maybe even longer to fix that dispute. And this is a particularly bad filing season to understaff the IRS because in July, as you mentioned, the president signed a big new tax law that has a bunch of new provisions that apply to individual taxpayers, to regular people, and they're all pretty complicated. And so I think a lot of people are going to need guidance from the IRS, need definitive, real guidance. And in the absence of that, scammers come and try to fill in the gap. And that's what I'm really worried about.
And I'm curious, does this staffing scramble at the IRS mean major delays on those tax returns for the average American?
Well, it depends. So if you file electronically and everything goes right, then most of the process to get your return is automated. So there's automated checks, the payments are processed in an automated way. But if anything goes wrong, then there are major delays. Then your tax return gets flagged, it gets pulled out, it gets put into a pile, and most of that process involves actual people. And there aren't enough actual people left at the IRS. So IRS staffing is down about a quarter to a half. The IRS has shrunk in terms of the senior most managers, the senior executive service, which as someone who spent a decade and a half in the federal government, most of it as a political appointee, these are the people who know how to get processes moving. A third of those are gone from the IRS, and it's on its seventh leader this last year. And so if anything goes wrong, there will be major delays. And I think that there are likely to be a lot of people who get things wrong this filing season through no fault of their own. There are a lot of complicated new tax provisions. I can give you one example. So a lot of people are talking about this no tax on overtime provision that's in the president's big new bill. So overtime is time and a half, right? You would think that no tax on overtime means no tax on time and a half. Well, the no tax on overtime provision is really no tax on the and a half part of overtime. You still have to pay tax on the time part of overtime up to you making a certain amount of overtime. To make it even more complicated, the document that you usually get from your job, your W-2, that tells you how much money you've made that year so you can help fill out your tax return, doesn't separate out overtime. So you have to do it from all your own documents, from all your own pay stubs. Doesn't mean you shouldn't claim it, doesn't mean that it won't help people. It just means it's all complicated and there's a risk of error here. And so a lot of people are going to be delayed.
You know, one of these days it's going to be easier to do taxes. Just today is not that day. Julie Brinn Siegel, thank you so much.